What is going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel, Previews and Vlogs. Alright, so that last video, I gotta say, it was an hour-long video. It was a pretty long video. I talked a lot in the last video, which I'm not gonna do in this one. Actually, on this one, we're gonna move pretty quickly through this whole process, what I'm gonna be doing today. So for today, I'm actually gonna be leaving the Cadillac alone, giving it a break from any mods. There are some mods coming for the Cadillac, more of upgrade, like interior mods, than anything that has to do with performance mods. Performance mods, that car is done with. But today we're gonna actually focus on the Trailblazer. Now, I haven't done a video on this Trailblazer in a while, and that's because I've been doing everything on the Caddy. So on this Trailblazer, we're actually gonna be installing this LED bar. Now, I did say in one of my last videos that I don't know what kind of mods I'm gonna be doing on the Trailblazer, of course. You know, I still gotta replace this fog light from that last video I told you I was gonna do. That's all still getting a bunch of condensation in it. The lights are getting all rusty and faded again. So I might replace the lights as well, but I just wanted to do a light bar. Now, I've seen trucks out there and stuff like that with light bars in them, and thought it was a cool idea. Now, the thing with this is I thought it was gonna be easy. I said I'm gonna put the light bar right down here on the Trailblazer, right in this area right here. Now in there, the only thing there is in there is the trans cooler. I believe it's a trans cooler, pretty much just fins in there and stuff. I don't know if you guys can see them. But tried mounting that in there and the bar fits perfectly in there. Only problem is the actual bracket. Here's what comes in here, just before I keep talking about it. You get the light bar, of course. I believe it's a 20-inch or 24-inch bar. You get all the wiring harness. You get extra fuses and connectors that you're gonna be using for this. And then you get the hardware to mount it. Now, here was my problem. Now, I already opened the box up, of course. Now, this light is from Nilight. That's the actual name of the company. I will put a link in the description if you guys want to get this light bar here. And it goes for any truck. You use it for any truck. I'm using it on Trailblazer, of course. Now, these are the mountings that hold on to the bar on the side of it. So if we look at this area where the light bar was going to go, like I said, the bar fits in there, not a problem. These mountings, though, do not fit in there all the way like they should. And the bar will not mount down there because, of course, the mounting for the bar and for the holes is like in the middle here. So it won't fit. It just won't work. I tried every different way to do it. There are smaller mountings that you could go on there, but then I started thinking again. If I put the light bar in here and water gets to it, which it will, of course, it's the lower part of the car, or a rock comes up and hit it, where it can hit it anywhere, of course, but it's more susceptible to getting hit right in this area here. It's gonna be the end of the bar, and it's got a lot more water's gonna get into it, especially since it's lower to the ground. So I decided I'm gonna actually mount it in the grill. So actually I'm gonna cut a hole in the grill and mount it right in this area here. Now, another thing that we have to look at with this grill is if you guys looked at one of the last videos when I put this grill on, I had an issue with it kind of just staying put, and I found out the reason why. See this thing right here? This is for the Chevy emblem on the old grill. They used to have a tab that went right in that hole right there, and of course that centerpiece would just pop in there. Well, since this grill doesn't have it, this thing pushes on the grill, pushing it outwards, and that's why it won't sit flush against the car. Now that I figured that out, of course, when I try to put the bar in there, it's gonna hit the bar as well. So we're gonna actually, first of all, let's take the grill out and I'm gonna show you a better look at exactly what I'm talking about here. So to take the grill out, I already cut the zip tie that was in there that I put on the last video, and it's pretty much just popping a bunch of clips here. Gotta be careful with this one. Try not to break any more clips off of this. There it goes. And it pops out that easily because, again, set that down. This thing is hitting it and it's pushing on the grill. So what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna cut this. I was just gonna cut it here, but I'm just gonna cut this piece off here and here. Simple fact is that this piece here, all it does is just basically the mount for the actual grill. The actual bracket for the radiator and everything is just a big frame inside of there. This plastic piece can be purchased separately with this and this doesn't really attach to anything. There's no electrical behind it. There is a bar, a metal bar that goes here, which is basically a brace. But again, the plastic piece itself, I don't need, and this piece is what I want out of there. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out. Then we're gonna mount the light right in this area. Now, from here to here, the light should fit. We're gonna see how the brackets fit, if I have to do any type of weird drilling or something like that. I'm hoping that I could just get the brackets to fit on each side here. And we'll measure that after I cut this piece off. All right, so let's see now how the light bar fits on it. Seems like it may fit a little bit better there. Again, with that piece in there, there's no way the light was gonna fit in there. Let me actually put the brackets on the side here and see how it fits with the brackets. All right, first, of course, to mount these brackets, it comes with its own Allen wrench key here and 2 Allen screws on the sides. You put those on there, and then you're able to actually adjust it to where you want it. So I don't want it to shoot up, of course, in anybody's face. I don't want it to shoot too far down. I'm gonna leave it, this should be leveled right there, right where I need it. And we're gonna go ahead and tighten up both sides here. Should be perfect right there, right where I need it. And we're gonna see how this is gonna fit onto the car. All right, so let's see here. So of course it's a little bit longer than I thought. I thought I was gonna be able to get it in between the center frame, between of course these 2 tabs in here, but it's not. It actually goes a little bit further out. But right there actually is where it seems perfect. Now, once I screw this in, if I wanted to adjust the light, if you guys notice it's kind of facing downwards, if I wanted to adjust the light, I can just loosen up the screws a little bit and kind of move the light up and down a little bit more. But I think that's where I'm gonna make the holes for this, and the grille's gonna go right over that. Now, of course, there's nothing to hold the actual light in place at this point. So this is gonna be like a trial and error. I'm gonna make the 2 holes right in here, and I'm gonna attach it to this. And I think that's properly centered right there, of course. Right there should be centered. I'm gonna mark the holes, of course, right in there. All right, so of course, before I mark the holes, I am gonna finish cutting the rest of this piece right here off. The only reason I'm doing it is because it'll give me more room to go back and forth with the light bar on there. Now, when it comes to mounting both the brackets on this side here, there is very little I can, because of the bolts on here that hold down the front bumper, of course. Those have to be on there, and the brackets kind of, well, these bolts or these screws get on the way of that. So it's gonna be a little challenging to try to get it to fit properly in there, but we're gonna try our best here. Again, I'm gonna cut this center piece off just to make more room for the light bar to go back a little bit further in. And of course, at the time that I'm doing this, my neighbor decides to cut his grass. So anyways, let's finish cutting this off. All right, so that came off. Now let's see how the light bar fits in there. See, now it gives me more room to slide the light bar back and forth in there and be able to mount it on there. Now, the perfect scenario would be if the brackets somehow lined up exactly with the holes of this, then I would be able to just put longer screws in there and hold the bumper and the light bar down. But that's not the perfect scenario. So what we're gonna do is, since I can move it a little bit further back, get a little more flush in there, we're gonna go ahead and mark the holes right in there where we want this light bar to sit at. Right now with the holes marked in there, we're just gonna make a hole big enough just to fit the bolts that came with the light bar. Now, different light bars come with different bolts, so what I'm gonna do here is, on the plastic piece here, I'm gonna actually make the holes big enough to fit this screw from underneath it. I'm gonna take these screws out of here, put these screws underneath, and then tighten these down, and that'll tighten up the screws down there, and that should be able to hold the light bar in place without having to modify anything or do anything crazy. So let's go ahead and finish that off real quick. 5/16 hole should be enough in here. We'll see what happens. And that's perfect. That's pretty much all the hole we need. Now we're gonna take this plastic piece off. Now I did go through the metal bar there. There's usually nothing underneath that metal bar. It's just, again, reinforcing the frame. But we did the same thing on this side. Now that should actually fit through the bottom, and we'll get this thing installed. All right, so a 10mm socket to get these out of here. Just back them out slightly, just like this. Once you put both bolts in there, we'll screw this thing back down to hold down the bumper. Now you can see this, these are not going anywhere. All right. Moment of truth, fellas. Let's see if this fits right in there, if I didn't mess up the holes. 1, 2. Perfect. Look at that. Now, things out of the way. Here's the biggest thing. The grill. How much room? Oh, that's beautiful. That is, I'm not pushing the clips in, but that's perfect. Of course, I'm gonna cut the hole, and I'll show you how I do that in a little bit. Cut the hole right out of there. But first, let's wire up the light bar, make sure everything's perfect. Like, again, I've already tried the light bar before doing all this, and it works perfectly fine. But the holes gotta be cut from here to here. The only thing I do wanna look at is, that looks centered pretty much. Oh, that looks beautiful. It actually looks pretty good hidden. Now in the camera, you guys might see it like it comes through pretty good. I might not even need to actually remove anything. Whoa. I'm gonna see what happens. It actually looks pretty good the way it is, like it's hidden on there. But when it comes through, light comes through, of course, you're gonna see like the honeycomb pattern or the mesh pattern of the actual grill. Anyways, let's get this thing secured on there. Now, so you guys know it does come with these little rubber grommets for this right here. I didn't put them on because it's just gonna give me more of a lift, which that I don't want. So we'll just leave it right there. Put the locking pins on there. right, so the problem I'm having here that I'm trying to tighten these down now is the fact that this one got a little bit tighter. Of course, you can see down into the treads there, and this one's not getting any tighter. The reason is because, of course, the way it's supposedly properly be secured, you're supposed to be able to work it from both sides. You're supposed to hold it one side with a 1/2 inch, and then another side with the other 1/2 inch, of course, and then tighten it down from either side. Of course, I can't do that because I cannot get to it in here because I've clamped it down with this bolt in here, which is fine for now. I was able to get it to tighten up enough. I used some needle nose pliers, kind of just got in here, and if you can see, I kind of scratched up the metal right there. But I got in here and kind of tightened it down a little bit. It seems secure enough. And I do have a slight gap right here because it is on that screw. And again, that's the space it gives me to work with because I have this metal supporting bracket right in here that won't let me go any further. Now that I'm not cutting off because that's part of the hood latch system. So that I'm not cutting off. Cut off the plastic piece, that's fine. That didn't do much of anything after that original equipment grill was gone. But now, of course, now we'll see how it works. Of course, I'll keep checking it in, you know, here and there. If it gets too loose, I'll have to change out the screws or something or do something different. Now in here, I really can't get to the inside of this metal bar unless I go from underneath here. I can feel there is a hole right there. It's pretty much a drain hole right down there to be able to reach the screw in there. But for now, I mean, it feels solid. I mean, there is a little bit of play in there. And again, that's because I'm on the actual bolt right there. I don't know if you guys can see it. Literally, I'm mounted onto the actual screw right there for the bumper. That's why it's got that little bit of play. So no matter how many, I can tighten it down a little bit more, but feels solid. Now again, this is not a professional install by any kind of way. I'm just trying to show you guys. I've looked for videos on how to install light bars or light bars on these, and a lot of the light bars I see on the Trailblazer are either on the roof or somewhere else. Now there was some guy that mounted it in here, which took him pretty much all day to do, and he was having electrical issues, and he used brackets, some kind of brackets he used. I don't even see which ones he used. He did it a while ago. I wanted not to mount it down there for the fact of what I told you guys earlier, water and stuff getting in there. So I mounted it in there. For now, I'm gonna leave it the way it is. If not, what I'm gonna have to do is probably get longer screws to make this screw come up higher, so I could put some kind of washer or another piece of metal plate right in here and then tighten it down to that. But for now, that's how it's gonna stay. We'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and finish this install. I don't wanna make this a whole day thing here. So next step is to actually just run the wiring. And this is actually pretty easy and self-explanatory. So right here you have your, of course, the cable that's gonna go connect to the battery. You get your negative and your positive, red and black. You have a relay. Also comes with a fuse in here. It already comes installed with a fuse, with a 15 amp fuse inside of here. Go down this way. You have the connector that splits off for your switch to turn on and off the power, and then what goes connected to the actual light. Now, this here splits off into two different ones in case you have a different setup, a different light bar. You got two different light bars or something, you could do that kind of setup that way. The one's a shorter one, and also, of course, if the car is shorter, you could use this side instead of using this long side here. So I already had this taped off, not a pretty good tape off job, which I'm gonna fix that right now. And again, I did this when I was just kind of testing the light, make sure it worked. So I'm gonna go ahead and tape this off properly now and kind of tie it together and make it all one wire so I don't have two different wires kind of split off this way, because I'm only gonna be using this side here to install it to the light. So let's go ahead and get that. Also, just so you guys know, when you're running the wiring to inside the car on this specific light, this harness, this actually separates. Of course, you need, so you could do it with one hand. Yep, there it goes. Splits off, and then you could just run the wiring or the switch by itself inside the car and then connect it, which is what I'm gonna do to the main harness. So let's go ahead and get the light bar connected, wire it up, and then we'll add power to it at the end once we run all the wiring is ran. First things first is we're gonna connect, of course, the harness to the wiring of, which is all messed up already. So I've been messing with this light, to these lights here, or to these wires here. Now the way I'm gonna run the wiring for the car is going to be, of course, you got the radiator right in front of here, so I'm not gonna run it through the radiator or in front of the radiator. There's a wiring harness down the bottom here. Let's take a look at that harness. It's right there. And then I'm gonna run it behind the headlight. So we're gonna pull out the headlight slightly, just enough to expose some of the wiring, because we're gonna run it just as the headlight wiring is going right through all this and down the side into the car. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and just install these connectors on here. You're gonna make sure the wiring, of course, is nice and tight. Negative first. Right into the connector. Nice and tight. Of course, just tug on it. Don't go crazy pulling on it. Just make double check on there. Don't go too hard on it either, because then you may damage the actual connector. All right, so once you got that in there, that's not going anywhere. Now we're gonna do the positive. Do the same thing. I'm just gonna give it a quick turn in there and then just twist it around, just so it won't be so long. I could have cut the wire, I just didn't want to. Once it's in there, there you go. It's all set. Now we're gonna plug everything in onto the wiring harness. All right, so now that we have our connectors all set, all we're gonna do is plug in, of course, the red with the red and the black with the black. Once that's in there, make sure you just put all these little rubber protectors on there all the way through. Now I am gonna, of course, electrical tape this to make sure that the connections stay dry and connected at all times. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap these up with electrical tape. All right, once that's done, nice and tight, I'm gonna start running this through, like we said, should have ran the wiring first before I, of course, electrical taped everything together and connected them. So we're gonna unplug these again. I'm gonna run the wires right through here. Alright, so once you got the line inside of there, you can see it right there. That's it right there. Just gonna run this through right in here. Make sure you get everything kind of right behind the battery box right here. That's where we're gonna be going to. Now, of course, only you can do this until you get to the two battery connectors that go in there. So this is a lot of lines that gotta be ran in here. All this has to come in pretty much inside of here. Now, of course, if I would be thinking a little bit more, what I would have done is ran the line this way, out that way. Would have been a lot easier, because then I would have all the connectors out here. Now with this situation, for you guys basically, so you won't do the same issue, in this situation, I'm gonna have to take this one and both 10mm bolts out to be able to get this battery pack out of the way, this box, so I can get the cables in there properly. So you guys don't run into the situation, run the cables. You're gonna run the cables actually in reverse, from inside out. That way, this bunch of cables down here will already be inside of here when you're making a connection over there. That's what I should have done after I put the light in. I should have just ran the cables from the inside out, you know. So now again, this is it's not taking me very long, but I do have to pause I have my daughter inside, I got family visiting, and I'm kind of going back and forth as I'm doing this. So from inside into here, so it's taking me more time than I normally should. Actual time spent on the car so far, probably about 15 minutes. No lie, 15 minutes is what I've spent so far between putting that in and the connectors and all that good stuff. But actual time on the day, if I started this at out noon, it's about 6 o'clock, and that's because I ran to the store. I had to do a couple other things. You guys don't see that on here, but that's what it is. But 15 minutes is total time I spent on the actual car on doing this whole setup so far. So it is not a hard setup. It's just that if you got things going on for the day, or you're recording a YouTube video, you're moving around a lot of stuff, and you're moving cameras and tripods and everything else. So anyways, and of course you forget to do stuff like this. You're not thinking, you're just like, all right, it's getting late, I wanna get this done, and things like this happen. Anyways, back to the whole installation. So just make sure you run the cables from this way out before you do any connections or any installations or anything like that, just to make your life easier. Because at this point right now, the cables are fitting in here nicely, but once I get to that relay, it's not gonna fit in through this little tiny hole. I'm gonna have to just gonna take this out to be able to move this box out of here, be able to fit the relay in. So that's extra work that I didn't want to do. But anyways, what it is. I'm just gonna go ahead and just keep going with it. All right, so actually it kind of worked out. So I had to remove this bar to get this bar out of the way to be able to run the cable in there with the actual relay. But since I removed the bar, I was actually able to hook up the relay to the 10mm screw that goes in there that holds the bar down. So it actually kind of worked out in a way, removing it, because I was trying to figure out where I was gonna put this. I was gonna put it over here, and it actually fits right where the connector is gonna go for the positive and negative, right next to the battery, which is the relay right there. So they actually worked out for me having to remove that actual one. I mean, like I even said, you run the cables this way, you're probably gonna have to remove that bolt anyways just to get that relay, because that's the best place to install the relay in. But anyways, let's go ahead. I'm gonna keep finishing this thing up, and last thing to do is actually just run the wires inside of the car once I get this hooked up in the positive and negative. And I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna add power to this until I'm fully done running all the wires in the car and everything else. Then I'll add the power, we'll test it, and again, it worked before, so I don't see why it shouldn't work right now. So either way, I'm gonna keep going with this thing. I'm gonna finish connecting this, and if you want, actually my light's still all hanging out, but you don't need the light to be out anymore. You could actually reinstall the light back on there. But I'm gonna keep going. All right, so next step is going to be to run this part of the connector, which is the connector that goes to the battery, inside of the car. Now, what we're gonna do is, there is a couple grommets you can remove. You can remove this one right here, which is basically some wiring harness that goes inside of the cowl in here. Now, I'm not gonna do that because at that point I have to get this out just to run it in properly. Again, this is just a quick install. I'm not trying to be all professional, even though I like to hide wiring, but it is what it is with this car. Lifting this up right here, in this point right, there's an angle right in here. Try to find it again. It's actually right in here. You lift that up, it gives you enough room to put the wiring through, and then you pull this up a little bit, and you can actually pull the wire through here, because we're gonna run it through here, inside the fender, and we're gonna bring it on this other side out here. Now it's gonna go in through the car. It's gonna kind of come down through here and run inside of here, and then we'll connect it in here. Now, one thing, if everybody's asking, well, what are you gonna do with the wire here? It's gonna crush the door. Well, no, I'm gonna actually, which is not the best thing to always do, the rubber molding, or the weather strip, if you wanna call it, that's attached to here, I'm going to actually cut slightly, just enough for the wires to fit through, and it doesn't get crunched up against the metal here and get cut up over time. So I'm gonna be cutting a slight cut in this rubber molding in here. It's kind of to separate everything, just basically so it doesn't get crunched up on there. So I'm gonna go ahead and start running the rest of the wire in, and you guys can see how I do this. And once we got that ran in here, we got the one end sticking out the back here. We're gonna go ahead and zip tie this to this wiring harness here. The only reason I'm gonna do that. All right, so once we have the cable ran, now if you guys notice right here, there is this lever right here, which comes down when the hook closes to kind of latch on in here. So you don't want that being pushing on the cable constantly. So I'm gonna go ahead and zip tie. You guys know how much I love zip ties. zip tie this to this wiring harness right there, just to keep it from moving from any spot right there. And then of course we got this sticking out here. All we gotta do is take the last piece of harness, connect it, and find where we're gonna mount it inside the car. Then of course after that, hook up these two negative and positives, and we should be all done. So far, about 20 minutes, no more. So let's go ahead, I'm gonna zip tie this thing here, and then connect that piece in there, and then I'm gonna have to take the dash apart a little bit just to find out where I'm gonna install this. Still don't know where to install it. I was gonna do it here, but I know this is a full connector, meaning this is a one giant module in here. It's a whole block here because it has all this. So I don't want to drill in here because that might have electrical components in there or electrical sensors or something. All right, so last piece of the puzzle is going to be this connector. We're gonna have to put it in here somewhere. Now I'm gonna plug this in. All right, so before we go ahead and start plugging anything or cutting anything here, let's go ahead and get this thing out of the way here. Just pops right out, just like that. Nothing in there, of course. So the wiring is gonna come in through here, come out this, go through here, and come out through this side here. Now, if I wanted to, I can. If I really wanted to, drill a hole in here. I'm not gonna start drilling holes on my paint or in the car or anything like that. So I'm gonna take apart the dash. Now, to take apart the dash, it's actually fairly easy. There are two Phillips head screws in there. One right in this little cubby in here. I don't know what this little area is, right in there. And then of course you could pull this part of the dash out. Now of course you're gonna have to get in here because you want this whole thing to come out, because you're gonna be drilling a hole somewhere in here. I still haven't figured out where I'm putting where I got space to drill the hole and put the switch in. So I wanted to do it in here like I said earlier, but it just didn't work out because of, I know this is a big control panel in there. So let's go ahead and take the dash apart. You're gonna need a small pick to get these out of here. These are just basically little covers that reveal 7mm screws in there. And there is 1, 2, 3, I believe about 6 Phillips head screwdrivers and about 4 7mm screws. So get all those out right now. Now get your 10mm out and get your Phillips head screwdrivers out. And I'm gonna be using, of course, a power tool to get everything out, just to make the thing or the process go. So 2 more 7mm screws, this one and this one right here. Once you do that, you'll be able to pull this black trim piece straight down to access more screws underneath it. So once that's done, just pull this piece down here, and then of course you're gonna reveal 2 other 7mm screws, one right here and one right in there. Now this piece just comes right out. It's just hooked on by these. After you take the screws out, it's just hooked on by these small clips right here. So we'll get those other 2 screws out of the way. So once those screws are all out, you just pull down on this. Make sure you pull straight down so you don't lose any of the tabs. Luckily, the actual tab didn't break, just this metal clip came out, which can easily be installed back on there. All right, so once you do that, you're going to reveal 1, 2, and 3 more screws. Now those are Phillips head screws, and you want to be able to get those out to pull the dash out. Alright, once all those screws are removed from there, now you can go ahead and just kind of pry gently straight out. Bring the steering wheel down to give you some room to work with here. So you kind of just pry slightly. I do it by the radio usually. Let me get this out of the way. Actually, that kind of helps get it out of there. And if you need some help, of course, you can use your trim removal tool here to pop everything forward. Now, this is as far as pretty much you're going to need this, because what we're trying to see here is only where exactly we're going to put this new switch at. So, like I said earlier, if you look back here, this whole control unit is for these. So you can't drill in here. Don't know what's in there. I don't want to screw this up and then my fog lights won't work. Let's see if we see anything else. Let's see. Try to drill it maybe in here, but that's a small, actually might be big enough to fit it in there. Not sure. If we go up here and try to put it on this side of the vent, there is room right here as well. You could drill a hole right in there, but I want to have it more closer to the fog lights. And I think all my lights, I want them to be just in one spot. I was gonna do it here, but right here, there is a clip and the vent, and it's just not gonna work on that area. Now I've seen people, well, the last guy that I saw on the YouTube did it, he put it on his actual, by his control over here, he ran the wiring through the door. I'm not gonna go through all that. I don't feel like tearing the door apart. Yeah, I tore the dash apart, but that's easier than tearing the door apart, I believe. At least, I think. But it's either gonna go here or up here. Now I don't want it up here, so I wanna put it right where the actual, close to the fog light button, so they're both right next to each other. So I think I'm gonna drill the hole right in this area here to put the switch right in here. All right, so you guys know, basically I'm gonna have to make a hole big enough to fit this button in there. Now, of course, this doesn't designate what size this is or anything like that. It doesn't say if it's 3/4 inch. It gives you a lot of other writing in there. Right in there for like amperage and everything else, but it doesn't really tell you the size of this. Now, looks like a 3/4 inch, but what I did here is I kind of took the step drill and drilled it in this box. Now, this is a 3/4 inch. I ran the cable, of course, even the connector fits right through there. It gives a little bit of play, of course. I'm doing this one-handed, so. And of course, kind of snug a fit, and that's what you want, is a snug fit. And that fits right in there. So I'm gonna go with a 3/4 inch hole. That's probably what's gonna fit in there. Again, this is a snug fit on this cardboard box, which has a little bit of flex. So I'm thinking with the plastic, it'll be nice and snug on there. I will put some glue on the back end of it just to make sure that it doesn't come out again. But for now, 3/4 inches, I think what we're gonna drill in there. All right, so what I did here before we did any of this, what I did in here is I marked off exactly where this trim piece here starts and finishes, and of course where the screw for this thing, for this control panel, goes in the back of it. So right here in this gap, there is nothing in this, between this gap right here. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and drill right in there. So once I do this, there's no turning back. There will be a hole on my dash, so let's hope it works. I'm gonna center it. I'm gonna get it right in centered. All right, we're in. I just wanna make sure I don't hit anything on the back there. All right, the hole has been made. So now I got a hole right in the center of my dash. Now let's see if it fits. Actually, I don't think I went too far in. Let's see how far I went. so I went all the way through. I guess in the earlier one, when I did the hole earlier, I didn't go all the way through, and of course just had to go a little bit further in. But now the hole is right in the middle. Take this out, take the tape out of there. Don't need that anymore. This fits right through here. And of course, there's resistance there, so once I push that in, those clips on there will clip on the inside. But like I said, I want to make sure that I put some glue on there before I seal it up and make sure that it doesn't come back out. So before I put everything back together, let's finish connecting it. The last thing is going to be to put some glue on that thing before I put away the dash or put the dash back together. But right now, it actually looks pretty, doesn't look that, it's not gonna look that bad. It's gonna be like right off to the side there, nice little light. When it's on, it will be on, of course, in red. It turns on red when it's on, when there's power. When there's no power, it'll be turned off, the little light. So let's go ahead and now finish connecting everything, give it some power, test it out before we put everything back together and seal everything out. Time to take out the cables. Of course, we're going to be using a 5/16 to get disconnect the negative and positive battery terminals. Alright, so it's finally done. All the cable needs to be put away and everything. One problem I am having though is the positive cable. So the problem I had was I stripped the positive cable, mostly the screw. You guys see it on there, it's not fully seated in there. What happened was with these cars, and I didn't know this comes with a little, of course, copper rings to hook up to the positive and negative. So I figured unscrew, easiest part of the job, right? Unscrew it, pop it on the inside, screw it back on. Well, that's not how it works. On the actual connector that goes up against the battery, there are like 3 little notches that sink into the actual battery and let the screw go all the way in. By putting the connector in there, just that O-ring connector, it wasn't letting that happen. And I tried every different way I could until I finally ended up stripping the positive cable. Now, what I did for the other side is I actually just cut up the rubber insulator, which is this piece here, just to be able to fit the connector through there, pull the screw out on this side, and be able to hook it up on the opposite side of where it goes against the battery. So it's actually hooked in through here and through the inside piece right here. So right in there, you guys can see how it is set right there. And that's the only way it's gonna work because the way the connectors are in the battery. Now, of course, I could have looked for another positive source, maybe even the fog lights. So when I hit the switch for the fog lights, I gotta find that fuse in here, of course, because you could actually just hook up the positive and negative straight to the fuse. The fog lights, you turn the fog lights on, you don't power, but I didn't want to do that. So I ended up stripping the positive. It fits in there, it hand tightens, it does not tighten all the way down, but the job in reality is actually done. Now I gotta get just a positive screw on there to screw back onto the battery, and that should be all good. Now, I'm gonna put everything back together. Everything's still apart, so I'm gonna do this. I'm just gonna do it off the camera. Put everything back together. Again, you guys saw where I hooked up the switch in here. It is still taken apart, of course. I'm gonna put everything right back together, just the way I took everything out of. And literally, the one that took me the longest, I believe I was sitting messing with this thing, trying to figure out why and how not to cut this to be able to fit that battery in, but it wouldn't. You nearly gotta cut a slice on the top of it. This is what I would suggest, cutting a slice on the top, or if you wanna find another positive anywhere inside of there to be able to run this, or positive and negative inside of the fuse box. Of course, a negative is any ground. If you wanna find a positive spot to run it off the fuse box, be my guess, there's probably a bunch in there anyways that I could have done. But this is the way I wanted to hook it up. So you gotta get another screw to connect it, probably O'Reilly's or Pep Boys or somebody's gotta have it. Not too worried about it. Luckily, I'm not driving the car the next day. I'll be driving the Caddy for the next few days. It's such a nice weather outside, I need to take her out. But I'm gonna hook everything back up, put the light back in, put everything back the way it should be. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put the grill back on. And then you guys be the judge if I should leave the grill on or off, or I should cut the grill for the light to come out. You guys let me know in the comments. So let me put everything back together and we'll get this thing settled up and done pretty much for now. So this is the next day here. Now, like I told you guys, I had stripped one of the screws that go into the battery. So pretty much one of the terminal screws. So I did went ahead and AutoZone and bought them. They did have some in there for $4. I'm gonna do that now. I'll do that at the end actually. So yesterday what I did is I ran the cable through here, which I didn't like. I cut through the actual gasket for the door, or for the door molding, if you want to call it, which is pretty much a weather strip actually. The weather stripping. I cut through it, kind of dumb of me. Of course, there's metal in it to kind of keep everything nice and straight. And the wiring is running through here. Now, I actually don't like the way that's running because of course the door is closing on there. So what I'm gonna do today, I'm actually gonna run the wiring the proper way, the way I should have ran it to begin with. And yesterday, because I was kind of rushing and a bunch of stuff was going on and I have more time today, I'm actually gonna run it the proper way. And that is coming in through down here. Of course, there's this rubber boot right there that has a main harness that goes through there. Now I put, of course, a lamp in there just to basically be able to tell exactly where the light comes out from and run the wiring. Now, running the wiring down here is not gonna be hard. It's gonna be running it through the actual rubber bushing. This in here does not give you much room. Again, the wiring is in there already. You guys can tell right there. Trying to get the light to kind of focus on there a little bit here. So if you guys look at this, that's the harness that goes in here. Now, it is pretty tight in there, and this is pretty thick as well. I mean, it's not something that's just a small hole. It's actually, I'd say about at least 3 inches thick that I have to kind of run a wire through there, and a tight wire through there. So running the wiring to get down here is not the problem. That's gotta be easy to get the wire to come out here. It's running it through this hole so everything seals properly, because if I leave the wire sticking out through the sides, then I'm going to have issues with water leaks and water coming in the car, of course. So that's gonna be the issues running it through that rubber grommet, that centerpiece, along with the other rubber bushing. But we're gonna go ahead and try that anyways. So that's gonna be the proper way of doing this. So let's see if I can get this wire or that comes for this light to come through this rubber bushing here. It's basically going from the engine bay right down through this harness here. You could see where the light's coming in from that flashlight that I have in there. And again, I could actually, I'm sure if you guys could see it, but you could actually see the hole right there, which is not hard to get to. Again, it's just basically dropping down the wire in there. I got a coat hanger, a metal coat hanger that I'm gonna kind of tie it down to or tape it into and just drop the wire in there. But it is gonna be running it through the actual bushing or the grommet, whatever you wanna call it. That's gonna be effect of that, but it's actually even hotter today. It's about 95 degrees outside. Beautiful day and everything, but it's really hot. So I'm sweating and I'm barely even doing anything so far. But anyways, let's go ahead and get this wire ran through there, and hopefully I can get it through that rubber bushing and get this properly done the right way. And I might have to just forget about that actual gasket that goes around the door. So let's go ahead and just get this thing over with. All right, so what I'm doing here is pretty much I'm taping off the one end of the connector just to get down there. Now, again, this is not gonna be the hard part because I can see the hole. And there you have it. Now that wasn't hard at all. It's gonna be running it through here. So let me take the tape off of this thing, and then now we're gonna try to run it through this rubber bushing here. And hopefully we get it through here. I'm gonna get some grease or something just to kind of lube up the wiring and this, and just try to pull it through there and see how. All right, fellas, so here's what the problem I'm having. So everything, so this middle piece in here that actually comes out of this rubber grommet. So you have this big giant rubber grommet left. Now here's the problem. This giant grommet in here actually goes all the way to here, of course, covering part of the wiring harness. The problem here is that I cannot get anything to fit there, especially a connector about that thick that's gonna fit through here. So my only option in this case is going to be to cut a slight hole right on the top here that'll give me entrance to the inside of this grommet, and then I can run it through here because this does stretch out far enough, and I could probably get something in through there. Or even if I don't, I might get it just through the top of it or something like that. But it's trying to get it in this boot here first, which is the main issue. Now, once I cut this in there, I'm compromising, of course, getting water onto the actual wiring and stuff like that. Of course, this part here is exposed to the outside. So after I cut the hole on here, I am gonna go ahead and put some silicone over it, or around, I should say, around the actual wiring. And I'm gonna cut the smallest hole, enough just to push this through. So I mean, when I'm pushing it through, that it's tight enough that even when I put the silicone on there, and I'm gonna actually put some tape and everything around it and everything, try to get it as waterproof as possible. Now, if you guys have done some of these on the cars, now I've seen them on the roofs, of course. Running it through the roof is easier because you can run it through the pillars and stuff like that. But running it through the floor here, I mean, this is the only way to get it into the car from what I see it so far, and without having, of course, going it through the door. Now, if you guys have ran one of these before and done it from the way I'm doing it, let me know how you guys did it. Put it on the comments below if I'm screwing this up. But either way, I'm gonna cut it right in here. The water, if it does come in, any water comes in, it's gonna come in here. Probably, you know, won't be a lot because I'm gonna cut it just a small hole just to push this in there. And again, this is for soft rubber, so I should be able to just kind of do a little cross incision and just push it through. And that's the way I'm gonna do it. I've decided, I thought about it. There's no way I can get in this boot that's in here. This is exposed to the outside. No matter which way I do it, there's gotta be water coming in. So I'm gonna do it to the top because that's the hardest way. Of course, I don't ever have the car water up to here. But again, on the road, water gets on in here. It's gonna get all wet and stuff. But it's the best way to do it at this point. The only way I could think of doing it. If you guys have any comments or anything different, let me know. Of course, by the time you guys comment on this, it'll be too late. I already have made the hole on here. So that's what I'm gonna do for it now. I'm gonna try to cut a slight hole right on this top piece here. Just enough to get in there without cutting my finger, of course. And then make another hole here. Downwards. Actually, let me get a sharper blade here. All right, so I cut the hole big enough in here. I'm just trying to push the connector in and pull it out the other side here, and there it goes. All right, so we got that far. Now we got to get it in through this piece here, which seems to be a little bit easier. I'm actually gonna get a little bit of lube in here and just get it lubed up and just put it right through that center piece. All right, so I put some gear oil onto this, just gonna wet this just to give it some lubrication, and we're gonna go ahead and get it through here. It should come just right through there, just like that. All right, perfect. All right, now we can put this back in here. First, of course, let's get the hanger out of there. All right, so I got the hanger out. not gonna be easy. All right, the hanger comes up. All right, we'll finish putting this piece back in. All right, so that's back in there. We have a little incision up here, but again, just if you guys want to look at it, it is not that bad. I mean, so I'm gonna put some silicone on there and seal this thing up, and that's gonna be the wire end. And of course, next step is gonna be to take the wire from here, take it out of here, of course, just like that, and we're gonna bring it back in to drop down, and then we'll hang it somewhere in here just to get it to plug in at the bottom of the car there. And then hopefully I don't get water in there. Of course, again, we did cut a hole in a water pretty much tight seal for a wiring harness. So again, I do have to put some silicone around it just to kind of seal up anything, and I'm gonna put some tape around it as well. So I'm gonna do that off camera here, but again, that was the only way I could see it, that I could run the wiring through there. Again, if you guys have done it, different way to do it, easier way probably, let me know. This is the first time I'm doing an actual light bar in any car. I've never had an SUV per se that's mine. I've always ran either sedans or sports cars, so I've never needed a light bar, and I've always thought they look cool on trucks. It'd be trucks or SUVs. So either way, I'm gonna go off camera for a second here, and I'm just gonna go through that and put some silicone on there, tape it up, and connect everything. Again, you guys saw how I made the connections before. You guys saw how I made the hole for this, so you know exactly which way I'm going here. Now, again, any comments are welcome, even if they're bad. I'll take constructive criticism, as long as you keep it clean, I don't care. All right, so I'm gonna go off camera here. I'm gonna finish this connection off here because I gotta put the new battery terminal screw for this one, that this thing is just kind of not even held on there properly. But that's the way I ran this wiring, so I'm gonna put everything back and I'll be right back. All right guys, so it's all done. The only thing I gotta do is hide this wiring in here, which is extra just wiring that's left over. But other than that, it's all done. The connection inside, of course, the car here is done. Of course, I just gotta put this little cover back on. But it's all taken care of, zip tied, sealed properly. Hopefully it doesn't leak. If it does, then I'm in big trouble. Again, this is just my daily to drive back and forth to work in. I love the car. I actually like it as my daily. That's why I'm doing things to the car, or the truck, I should say. There is the lamp. Now, if you guys see it, it's behind the grill. Now, I was gonna, like I told you earlier, I was gonna cut a hole in the grill, but I'm like, it actually looks pretty good, and it lights enough light comes through there, and you can't see the mesh on the reflection of the light. So it doesn't. It actually kind of looks really nice. The grill still looks good, and I have a light behind it, so it's kind of like a camouflage light, if you want to say. I'm gonna turn it on right now so you guys can take a look at it. There you go. That's how it actually looks. I mean, you can't see the mesh, you know, the grill, of course, and the light shines through. If you look at the actual shining of the wall, on the light on the wall, you can't see any lines or anything like it's cutting through the grill, like the light's being cut through. When I had it on last night just to try it out, I'll show you some pictures here. It comes through perfectly fine. So I think at this point, I'm just gonna leave it that way and call it a day for the light. Let me know what you guys think. Should I cut a hole in there? You think I'll get better light out of there? But at least I don't think I will. I think I'll get the same amount of light, and it looks a lot better because when I turn the light off, the grill is all intact. So I think it looks pretty cool the way it is right now. At the end, so what really happened with the battery screws is that I stripped the actual screw. You can see how badly that's stripped on there. What happened is the connectors in there have a specific little notches that they go into. So when you put the connector up against the battery terminal, and the notches are supposed to go into the terminal. It literally has like little notches cut out for it. If it doesn't go in there, the screw can't go in all the way. Well, the circular connector for the LED light was kind of blocking those notches to go in there, and I couldn't get the screw in there, so I was kind of forcing it in. By doing that, of course, I ended up stripping that screw. They're $4 for 2 of them at, you know, any AutoZone. I went to AutoZone or any auto parts store. They're literally $4. So I bought 2 of them, replaced positive and negative, and now everything's good. Also, to do that, I had to basically cut these rubber insulators out a little bit just to be able to get for the LED harness on there. So it's actually, the O-ring is on this side, not on this side, because it won't go in on the side where it hits the battery. It has to go in on the opposite side. So that's how it actually works. If you try to put it in on the part that the battery and the terminal connect to, you won't be able to get it. Connect, it actually just kind of, it's a pain in the butt, let's put it that way, and then you end up stripping something like that. Not a hard fix, of course, just basically putting in $4 to replace something else. $4 that shouldn't have really spent if I would have used my head a little bit more. And I keep pouring sweat. It's up to almost 97 degrees right now. All right, so let me know what you guys think of the install. Again, first time I've ever done an LED light on anything, other than just basically doing LED bulbs and there's just plug and play, you know, just the actual headlights or the fog lights or anything like that. This is an LED lamp. The actual mounting and wiring is not hard. The part that gave me trouble was running the wire into the car and which way to run it into the car. And I ran it through the side of the door. It just didn't look right. And then I had to cut that weather strip, which now it's all jacked up. And then, of course, running it through that rubber boot at the bottom was a pain in the butt. Now, there might be other cars out there that are a lot easier than that, but this thing was just a pain in the butt. And I had to cut a little slit on top to run it through the top. So let's hope that works out and I don't get any leaks. At some point in time, I will update you guys if I do get any leaks. But for now, I hope you guys got some information on this and how to install LED light on a Trailblazer, at least the way I did it. And you guys can take some tips from it. Put your own little twist to it if you find different ways to do it, or you know different ways to do it. Also comment in the section below, you know, let me know how you guys did it, if you've done it, or what do you guys think of the way I did it. Other than that, that's the end of it. I'm gonna leave you with some pictures of a before the LED light and after, and some night shots of the car with the LED light on. I'll see you guys next time. Take care. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Hit that like button and also share this video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.